So yeah, this is going to be part four with the continuation of the destruction of America by American culture. Okay, so with Hollywood being in control of the movies, a lot of these movies that come out in Hollywood are being shown all over the world. They get these movies in their countries and they get it put in their language. Um, and they sit there and watch these movies. And with, the movie industry, they always try to make black people the criminals in a lot of these movies, especially in the 80s. You would see a lot of movies where, uh, especially, oh, what's the name? I can't remember the name of the movie right now, but there were some movies that were put out in the 80s that showed uh, the lifestyle of people living in Harlem, New York at a certain time. Um, and so they showed in this movie this drug lord that ruled the streets of Harlem, and how he went about doing things. And these type movies that they show not only show here in the United States, they're showing them over in the Philippines, in Africa, in Mexico. They get these movies and they're putting them in their language. Sometimes they're changing what's being said, and you can't, once these movies leave the United States, you can put whatever you want to put in those movies as far as what's being said, because somebody else is in charge of changing uh, what's being said in the movie. So these movies that have been made in the United States, they get sent off to other countries. These people from these other countries watch these movies, and it plants a seed in their minds that all African Americans are drug dealers, all African American women are street prostitutes, all the men are selling drugs. uh, you know, it fills their minds. Whatever they see in these movies, they think that we're all like, they don't understand that it's just a movie, because you got white people, that send these movies over to these other countries, and then they'll tell the people in these other countries, this is what America is like. So they watch these movies not knowing that, hey, this is just a certain section of the United States. Back in the 1980s, there were a lot of drugs going on in Harlem, and in different parts of the East Coast and the West Coast. But what they fail to also put in these movies is that the CIA planted a lot of those drugs into the black communities to weaken their structure, their whole family line, okay, to completely destroy the black family once again. Why would you plant drugs into a community that's already not doing so well, to make sure that they stay where they're at, so that they don't become a competition for you, right? So the CIA planted drugs in the black community. This was even shown in a couple of our movies over here that were made, blowing the whistle on the CIA and some of the shit that they pull, planting drugs into the black community. And they're also behind a lot of the drug, what's that drug? Methamphetamines. I believe they planted that into the white community and showed people how to cook that stuff. Who's showing, when these drugs get introduced into society, who's showing them how to cook all this stuff and how to make the houses to cook all this stuff in, and one wrong move and you can blow up the whole house. Who's showing them how to cook all this stuff? That's got to be coming from somewhere. Black people weren't into methamphetamines. For some reason, that just wasn't their drug. What got black people was crack. They planted crack into the black community and methamphetamines into the white community. Does this have anything to do with African American culture? No. Who does it have to do with? The authorities, the people running things in the nation. American culture. Why would American culture allow something like this to go on in their country? For white supremacy reasons. White people don't really want to have to compete with black people for jobs. So why not keep them drugged into prostitutions, selling drugs, plant liquor stores in their neighborhoods, keep them drunk, put people down in their neighborhoods. We'll call them agents. We'll plant agents in their neighborhoods, show them how to cook the crack. We'll send agents into the poor part of the white community to make sure they stay down too, because they only want a certain kind of people making it to the top so that they don't have to compete with everybody else. It's much easier to just keep you high, give you a drug and keep you high, keep you down, than to have to compete with you for jobs that come up in the future. And if your kids are drugged or aborted, they don't have to compete with their kids, right? Way back in the 80s, I went down to Georgia to visit, and that was before the Great Migration happened in the United States, where people's rent started going up, people started losing their homes. We got all these foreclosures going on. People had to start leaving New York and New Jersey, and they started relocating to the South. And, before all that happened, the South was kind of a very innocent place for black people. I noticed that there were neighborhoods that were predominantly black, that had very affluent, rich neighborhoods that I never seen before until I went down to Georgia to visit, and I got taken around and shown different neighborhoods, not realizing that there were black neighborhoods with highly educated black people that had businesses and grocery stores. And, of course, it was no like it was, way back when they had all their own hospitals and clothing stores and doctors' offices. It wasn't that type of setup, but they did have their own affluent neighborhoods, though, and where it was, black family after black family after black family, nice, structured very well manicured lawns with brick layered houses at 3 stories high, and or and ranches. Some of them had horses way out. These were black people down in Georgia, and they had their own colleges, and they still do. But Georgia started, a lot of black people back in the 70s and 80s started to relocate to Georgia because they saw a promising future. It was supposed to be the uprising place to go for black people who had an education, and they just wanted to make that the headquarters of the black community. They wanted to create, really good accredited colleges down there, and they had their icon, Martin Luther King statues in different parts of the state, and it was just a very, very high-powered black community that really looked very promising with growth. And we're talking positive growth, where we're talking Wall Street type of potential, where eventually by now we would have had a major Wall Street state, where if the big dogs hadn't have went down to Atlanta and destroyed it, bringing let me tell you what happened. So from what I understand, Atlanta was promising, and it looked very, it was the place to be for a growing uprising nation of people, black people, and they wanted to put their headquarters in Georgia, with the capital being Atlanta. So a lot of black families set forth and moved out there to try to build this community, because they wanted that to be the birth of a new black race that was coming forth. And right when they started to take off, right when things really started, when the anchor started to drop and mark its territory, all of a sudden, all these homosexual men from San Francisco started to relocate their headquarters to Atlanta. They did that. Next thing you know, within 5 to 10 years, we had all these homosexuals running around. All these black guys got pulled in to this new homosexual energy. Then AIDS came in and started to destruct and destroy the people down in that, growing nation. And it just never got to where it was supposed to be, because somebody wanted to relocate the homosexual community from San Francisco to Atlanta, Georgia, right where black people were planning to start building their next Wall Street. And it destroyed the whole. Once those homosexuals came down to Atlanta, and I don't have anything against homosexual people. I don't care who you're sleeping with. The only thing I really don't like about homosexuality is the HIV transmission. And we all know what when men have sex with other men and they don't tell their female partners what they're doing, and then they go back and infect their female partners. That's really the only thing I hate about that. Outside of that, I don't care what homosexual people do. I personally really don't have anything against them. But what I don't like is when you have a homosexual community set up in San Francisco, why do you feel the need to relocate to Georgia? What is the purpose behind that? And the next thing we know, we had all, when they relocated to Atlanta, the next thing we know, we had all these homosexuals running around in Georgia to a point where eventually, within 20 years, almost more than half of the entire state were either in the closet, have thought about it, or were thinking about doing it, or had done it. And some of them were carrying these STDs, HIV. It just kind of went in and just destroyed what could have been the beginning of a, very powerful Wall Street. Who and what did that? Who was behind that? Because last time I checked, San Francisco, most of the homosexuals in San Francisco, they were all white. So why would white homosexual men relocate to Atlanta, Georgia? And how did it jump from white men to black homosexual men? That grew and then grew and then grew until basically, eventually, AIDS killed it killed so many people off down in Georgia until they really couldn't take off like they wanted to, because too many black men were dying. Too many black men that had potential were dying because they got into this. They were recruited into this homosexual lifestyle. Who and what did that? And I will never forget. I was told that by people online, and it turned out that it was true. I had heard that over 20 years ago. Somebody online mentioned it. I was in some online chat group, and they were in there talking about that, and I was just reading people going back and forth talking about how the homosexuality community in San Francisco relocated to Atlanta. Now, when you can relocate to Wisconsin, you can relocate to Oregon. Those homosexuals in San Francisco were white. So why would they take an interest in moving to a black area? So you see, every turn black people have ever tried to make here in America, something out of nowhere has always been planted to hold them back. In the 80s, it was crack. In the 90s, it was the homosexual community in San Francisco relocating to Atlanta, making that their headquarters. Then the next thing you know, Atlanta collapsed because everybody was dying of HIV. We have the history of Wall Street behind us, where black people did go in and build Wall Street and Rosenberg, or I forget what it's called. But they did build these different communities where they would go in and build it all up from scratch just to have it burnt down because some white woman said this, that, or the other. Every time we've ever tried to come up from underneath the white man's, power and control, he always planted something somewhere, some kind of way, somehow, to keep us oppressed. Okay? So they knew that when rap music first came out, it was going to be a major hit. When rap music first came out in the early 1980s, it started off with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and a couple of other, the Sugar Hill Gang, and then it went to the Young Fresh Prince and just all these little rappers that could rap just, making it up as they go. I forget what they call them, but very, very talented rappers that really knew how to rap. And white people saw that that was really, really going to become something big. So what they did was they came up with gangster rap. They went and hired some of, these guys that they found in Compton, told them, we can give you a record deal, but, we're going to put some things in your music. We're going to tell you what to put in your videos. You can make millions, but, you got to pretty much do what we tell you to do. Okay, so basically, these same people planted themselves into the music industry and got that all jacked up, fucked that all up. Okay, they planted the homosexuals down in Atlanta, fucked Atlanta all up. No hope down there when you change all the young men, when you turn them, all the youth down there into bisexuals and homosexuals, because then you got this AIDS transmission everywhere. Now, over 60% of Atlanta is HIV infected. Every single turn that black people have ever tried to make to bring their communities up, they have always been oppressed. And is it any reason why black women don't really want these other races of women dating and marrying our sons? It doesn't really always have to do with what happened 400 years ago. It doesn't always have to do with the slave trade of our ancestors, even though that is about 75% of why we don't really want our sons dating outside our race. But a lot of it has to do with the oppression that still goes on in this nation today. Every time we try to become something better, something somewhere keeps us suppressed and oppressed. It just comes up out of nowhere and keeps us where they think we should be, beneath white people. And so I honestly, if, let's just say that all black people got deported back to Africa, to tell you the truth, I really wouldn't care. I really would not care, because to me, that tells me the descendants of those deportees will have a much promising future. You're not going to have people constantly coming up with ways to keep you oppressed. I don't know why black people didn't try to go back to Africa years ago. I don't understand it. But I do know why white people did not want to send black people back to Africa after slavery ended. Because they knew that if they kept black people here, they could make a whole lot of money off of them. Maybe not with slavery, but they could pay them very little wages and keep them ignorant and dumb and on drugs and into sex and violence and against each other. They came up with ways to really, really keep us under them. And as long as we are living in this country, this is going to continue to happen. So, and then if we go to Africa, I think if we spread out, I think we would have a better chance of making it. But if we went to Africa as a whole, we might be headed for disaster, because that's when, they're going to start seeing us as a threat. If we were to go and set up a community down there and just start living, and if we're living better than them, they're not going to take that too well. They don't want to see other black people doing better than them in their own country. And I can't blame them. But when we descended from you, when you're the ones that sold us into slavery, then really you really shouldn't have anything to say. But that's just not how it works. But I can clearly understand why African American women do not want white women and Hispanic women dating their sons. I can clearly understand why. Because look at all the stuff that goes on here in the United States today. Okay? We've had white people telling us, well, get over slavery. It happened 400 years ago. Move on. But how can you move on when we're constantly being oppressed? It's a constant thing. It's constant. No matter how many laws are passed, there's always something going on under the table. This country was built on top of slavery, and I really can't see now or any time in the future anything changing. I really can't. To me, it would just be a blessing for maybe in South America, I mean not South America, but in Africa, in South Africa, if we could just have that country, South America, if that could be given to African Americans, let the white South Africans come over here, let all the black Africans that live here go to South Africa and live in a land that's already built, and let us run it. Let us have our own shit in our own country. I think that's the only thing that would work. If not South Africa, some other country in Africa where we can have our own country. That's the only way it's ever going to work. We can't be up under white people, and we can't really be with African people either. At least not starting out. Maybe gradually we can blend in, but just starting off, I think we need to have our own country in Africa to ourselves, like something like South Africa. Because I just cannot see black people having any changes. The only thing I see what's happening right now is that we're being bred out. Within another 30 years, if we keep going at the rate we're going, there's not going to be any African Americans left. Because white and Hispanic women are breeding with black men at a rate that is beyond belief. They act like there is no other man on the planet, that they just have to have a black man. It is pathetic. You should see all the videos. If you type in the YouTube search button, black women, or no, black men with Hispanic women, or black men with white women, there's so many videos on YouTube where black men are going around interviewing these women of these other races. There's so many videos on that. And you should hear what them women have to say. Oh, I just love his skin. And it's the contrast of the black skin with the white skin. And, it's everything that has to do with sex. There's nothing about, we have a lot in common. We're best friends. We get along really well. I like his personality. I like his ambition. It has everything to do with skin color. I like the texture of his hair. I like the way his skin looks against my skin, and the sex. That's really all they ever talk about. It don't have nothing to do with an actual relationship. Rarely ever do they ever talk about how black men have been an influence to them, or anything of that nature. It's all sexual. Most of it's all a fetish, and it is. Most black men are basically a fetish to non-black women, because again, it's pushed in American society. Everywhere you go, there's TV commercials promoting all this interracial dating and race mixing. Everywhere you look, there's billboards posted up showing black men with white women. Rarely do you ever see billboards posted up and ads that contain black women with white men or black women with Hispanic men, but it's always dark-skinned black men running around with white women, and it's heavily being promoted. How do you think this looks to black women? They act like we don't even exist. These black men are coming out of our wombs. We're giving them life. We're the one carrying them for 9 months. We're the ones giving them birth, but our sons are being pondered off to these races that are oppressing us. And we're supposed to be okay with these women from these other races dating all of our NFL players and our NBA players and all of our Hollywood movie stars, and going to college just to meet a black man that has potential, and trying to scope out black men on college campuses so that they can try to marry all of our black men with any type of potential. I've heard black men give interviews where where they will say that they were sought out on college campuses by these vulture-like white and Hispanic women, hunting them down to try to marry them so that they can have a man that has some type of financial potential. Well, don't you think that black women would like to marry our own men who have financial potential? How come you can't go get a white man to marry? How come you can't track down your own men from your community? Why do you always have to seek out black men who have potential in college or in the athletic field, or black men who are pursuing a career in Hollywood or in the music industry, stalking all of our rappers and going to their concerts and trying to track them down? And it's just, it's pathetic. If black women started doing all the stuff that these non-black women do to our men within our community, if we started doing that back to them, they would be highly pissed off about it. If I went to his Latino colleges and started seeking out Latino men with potential, and then next thing you know, there's 20 to 30 to 40 other black girls doing the same thing. How would Latino women feel about that? About us going to your colleges and seeking out your men and trying to marry all your men with potential. How would white women feel if black women started doing that to them? You know, what if we went to college just to start trying to pin down all your men that had any type of potential? And what if white men actually started falling for that and started marrying any and every black woman that they saw? White women wouldn't be, upset about that. It's just a black woman thing to not like these oppressive races dating and marrying our sons. And then you got women who are telling other black women to allow black men to date outside their race and to not care about it. Well, here's the problem with that. For every one black man here in America, there are 15 white guys to every one black man. That's 3 times the amount. Or, yeah, that's 15. So 15 guys to every one. That's about 3 times the amount of white men to black men. There's 3 times the amount. White men make up 75% of the United States. Black men only make up 6.5%. Okay? And you mean to tell me white and Hispanic women can't find men within their own communities to marry and date? They always have to seek out black men with potential? Really? Hispanic women or Hispanic men outnumber black men about 3 to 1. And with white men, I think it's I think it's 5 times the amount. Yeah, it's 5 times the amount. So there are 5 times the amount of white men compared to every one black man. Okay, once again, black men make up 6.5% of the United States. White men make up about 75%. And you mean to tell me that white women can't find white men nowhere in the United States that can keep her interested? I mean, do you mean to tell me that, every time I walk out of the house, I am seeing these white women walking around with these biracial kids? At least every time I leave the house, I see it. That's an awful lot of biracial kids running around. If every time I walk out of the house, and this has been going on for years, if every time I walk out of the house and I am seeing a white woman walking around with a biracial kid, that means that the state that I'm living in, the black population in this state is only at about 5%. The white population is at around 85%. So if I'm walking out of the house, if every time I'm walking out of the house, I'm seeing white women everywhere with these black kids, that's an awful lot of fucking going on between white men and black women. And with black men being at a very low percentage, that's an awful lot of sex going on. White guys aren't capable of having sex with white women? What's going on? Are white women no longer attracted to black men? I mean, it's not so bad when you see it every now and then. Okay. But when you got biracial kids outnumbering black kids, okay, that says a lot. And you see all these single white women running around with these mixed race kids, and it still does not slow down all this interracial race mixing. It's still not slowing down, even though a lot of these women are ending up single parented. It's not slowing nothing down. So what or who is keeping this going? Well, you got interracial ads everywhere. You got promotional ads everywhere. You go to Las Vegas, just about all the billboards, black man, white woman. It's all over TV, all over the commercials, all on your diaper bags, games, books, white man, black woman, everywhere. Why? Are white men not good enough to date their own women? How come this wasn't going on back in the 70s or the 60s? What's going on today to where all this race mixing is being promoted? And why is it only promoted between black men and white women and black men and Hispanic and Latina women, but it's not being promoted with black women at all? Did black women do something wrong? Do black women deserve that type of treatment? They're the ones giving birth to these black men, but yet they're pushed aside so that everybody else can come and marry the men that they give birth to? Really? There's been black women getting online talking about they can't even find a date in the state of California because the black men out there do not date within their own racial group. When did all this start? Who started it? Because that wasn't happening back in the 50s, back during the women's rights movement. Black men didn't have a problem with black women back during that time frame. So what happened in the state of California that seemed to permeate all across the nation? What happened? Is there something magical going on? Is it some type of sorcery that's being used on top of all the interracial promoting? And you see it all in the movies, this encouraging thing between black women or white men, between white women and black men. You see it everywhere. How come you don't see it with other races? You don't see Hispanic men being pondered off onto white women. So why is it just black men? What's going on? And don't tell me it has anything to do with climate change and white people need to have melanated babies, because we've been living on this planet with white people for thousands of years, at least 6,000 years. They have never had to breed with black people before on this level, not to my awareness. So why all of a sudden is all this? And it's not really all of a sudden, it's been going on for the last 20 years. But why is all this race mixing being promoted? And how come white men are not doing anything about it? They're very, very quiet about it. And when they see it, they don't really try to do anything about it. You don't hear them protesting against it or anything like that. But I have noticed a pretty large amount of black men being hung all throughout the nation. Okay, the lynchings are making a comeback. What's that all about? Is it because of the interracial dating and race making or race mixing? Is that why the lynchings have started up again? How come white men are not verbal? Why don't they just verbally start telling black men, hey, look, we don't want you with our women? You know, it's just very, very strange. They stay silent, but yet, you know, the lynchings are on an uprise. What's causing them? Because for several years, you never heard of any lynchings. And within the last 8 years, they've been making a comeback. And I've also noticed within the last 8 years, and it's been longer than that, but particularly within the last 8 years, all this race mixing is being promoted. Well, once again, this is not by fault of black people. Black people are not out here making all these ads and all these billboards and all these TV commercials. Who's behind that? White people and Jewish people. Once again, the film industry, the Hollywood. Once again, this goes back to Hollywood. Okay, the film industry. They're behind all this. Well, why are they doing it? What is all this fanatical promotion between, or I shouldn't say fanatical, but obsessive race mixing all about? Remember the movie Obsessed? There's a reason why they made that movie. And that other movie, I can't think of the name right now, but yeah, it was just out a few years ago. But you see all these movies in Hollywood, black man, white woman. It's almost like they're trying to enforce it and trying to push it up into our faces. Same thing with homosexuality. Every movie that we watch has some type of homosexual scene in it. Every single movie that we watch. Is the black community behind that? No. Who's behind it? Hollywood. Not the black Americans. It doesn't have anything to do with black American culture. Whites and Jews behind it. Okay, so I'm going to end this video here, and I think this should be it with this series for now. And I will come back later and talk to you guys in a later video. Thanks for listening.